2 miles away, we can hear the roar of a lion and the hiss of a leopard. No one can hear the silent cry of a mother bear who has lost her cubs, though it echoes through the universe. These yellow eyes were never meant to meet in this way. In the harsh African savanna, leopards and lions are naturally at odds with each other. One is a smart hunter who hides alone in trees, and the other is the king of the grasslands, whose team's strength rules the ground. They are competitors in a cruel battle to stay alive. As the stars fill the sky over Kruger, the strangest pair in natural history was changing all the rules of the wild world. They were sitting on a high branch of an old sycamore tree. It looked like an adult female leopard was gently licking the fur of a young lion cub. This isn't a story. There is no magic or help from people. This is a story about unimaginable pain and loss, as well as how the maternal instinct can get past all the barriers that nature has built up over millions of years. Night was slowly coming over Kruger's huge savanna. Nila, a female leopard who is 5 years old, was climbing her tall sycamore tree while the stars were out in Africa. Her soft body curled gracefully between the branches, but her normally bright golden eyes were empty and heavy with sadness that words can't describe. Nila was a happy mom just 2 weeks ago. After each hunt, her 3 cubs, 2 boys and 1 girl, always waited for her to come back to the den. All through the small valley where Nila had chosen to live with her family, the calls of the leopard cubs could be heard. However, nature never promises peace for all time. The first rain of the year came out of nowhere and was stronger than ever. Stormy floods of water came down from upstream, washing away everything in their way. Things went wrong while Nila was hunting. When she got back, the den was completely underwater. She couldn't save her 3 cubs because they were too young to swim or climb. Nila wandered around the disaster area for many days afterward without a plan. Her screams of pain could be heard in the dark, scaring even the usually alert impalas. A mother who had lost everything called. Nila's body kept making milk, which was a cruel reminder of the cubs that were no longer with her. It seemed like each hour went on, but fate sometimes takes turns that no one could have imagined. The grassland not far away was the scene of another terrible event. The Pride rock lion pride had 2 adult males, 6 females, and 7 cubs of different ages. It was one of the strongest in the area. Their land was very big and had lots of food and water. But people who want power are always drawn to wealth. 3 strange male lions showed up at the edge of the territory on a hot afternoon. They were all big, with dark, wavy fur and muscles that showed through it. This showed that they were mature and strong. They didn't come to talk or share. They came to take over. Both of the pride's adult males were killed at the end of a 2-day battle. The new conquerors didn't stop there, because that's how cruel nature is. They started to kill all lion cubs younger than 1 year old that were born to the dead males to make sure that only their bloodline would live on. She put her life at risk to protect her only son, Copa, a 3-month-old lion cub with big golden eyes and soft, pale golden fur. This happened during the chaos of the massacre. She fought bravely, but the crowd was too much for her. Before Copa was killed by the enemy's claws and teeth, Sarabi pushed him into a thick thorn bush that the attackers couldn't easily reach. Copa's mother's last words were, "Run, my love," and he ran as fast as he could. Copa ran through tall grass and across small cracks in the rocks. He didn't stop until it got dark. He was so scared and tired that he hid in a small bush near the base of a big sycamore tree and shook. That night, Copa had to face the darkness by himself for the first time in his life. He wasn't with his mother or the pride to keep him warm or safe. His weak cries for food mixed with the sounds of the grass and the cold stars in the night. Nila went on the hunt as the new day was slowly coming up. Even though her mind was tired from grief, her body was still strong. She didn't make any noise as her paws moved slowly through the grass. Her golden eyes looked over the land, looking for possible prey. She then heard it, a small, weak sound that she could make out. It wasn't the sound of prey, but the cry of a baby tiger. Nila got cold. Her instinct to hunt went away and was replaced by a new feeling that was a mix of curiosity and a repressed maternal instinct. She followed the sound at the base of the big sycamore tree she often climbed. The scream came from a bush close by. She knelt down, tense and ready for any danger, but what she saw shocked her. A lion cub, maybe only 3 months old, was curled up and shaking. There was dust and a few small scratches on his pale golden fur. He was too little and too weak to run. Every natural law says that Nila should kill this thing right away. Leopards have always been afraid of lions. This little thing would be very dangerous when it grows up. Nila felt like it was time to attack because she was a hunter, but something else was going on. She felt a sharp pain in her chest as the lion cub looked up with big, scared eyes. Those eyes looked at her with the same fear and desperation that she had been looking for in the eyes of her own lost cubs. Nila's body reacted before her mind could do anything. It was still making milk for cubs that weren't there. She felt a rush of prolactin, the hormone that makes women want to have babies. There was no conscious choice. There was only the most basic instinctual action. She bit into the lion cub's scruff as fast as lightning, not to kill it, but to carry it. She had done that move hundreds of times with her own cubs. Her fangs got just tight enough to hold on tight, without hurting anyone badly. Copa, the lion cub, was too tired and scared to fight back. As he was lifted off the ground with a smooth, firm motion, all he could do was make a weak cry. Nila climbed up the sycamore tree with her strange prey on her back. She kept going up until she got to a wide, flat spot in the tree where she built her nest. This was her safe spot, out of reach of any animals. It was where she had kept her own cubs. It was very soft when she put Copa in the middle of the fork. The lion cub shook and squeezed his eyes shut, sure that this was his last moment. Copa felt something warm and rough lick his head instead of claws and teeth. When he opened his eyes in surprise, he saw the female leopard looking at him. Her eyes didn't look like those of a predator. They looked like those of his mother. The taking away had begun. For a few days, Nila and Copa's relationship was a battle between their fears and their needs. Copa was still too young to live on his own, so he kept trying to get out of a high tree, but his legs weren't strong enough to help him. During the night, he cried out for his mother, but only Nila answered. Nila always kept an eye on Copa in the tree. She held the lion cub back every time he tried to climb down. She did this not in a mean way, but with the patience of a mother teaching her child about danger. Copa had to face the truth because he was hungry and thirsty. At first he said no, but by the second day, he was willing to drink Nila's milk. His small body couldn't fight the need to stay alive. Something changed when the first milk drops hit his tongue. It didn't taste like his mom's milk, but it was still sweet and good for him. His weak body got stronger from it. Nila, meanwhile, felt a big shift. Her body seemed to feel better after taking care of another life. It was still sad about losing her cubs. Once a painful reminder of her loss, her milk now had a reason for being. Oxytocin, the love hormone, was released in Copa's body every time she nursed. This slowly formed a bond that no natural law could have predicted. Nila went hunting every day and brought Copa food. At first, she chewed the meat really well before giving it to him. Copa learned to tear meat himself over time as he got bigger and his teeth got stronger. He learned to do it in a way that was careful, patient, and economical like a leopard. Copa learning to move in the tree was the most amazing thing. Lions are not animals that like to climb. Their legs aren't made to do that, to grip the bark. Their claws can't pull back like leopards can. But Copa came up with his own method with Nila's patient help. To stay balanced, he learned to use the strength of his jaw and where to put his paws. Most importantly, he got over his fear of heights. He was able to climb up and down the lower branches on his own by the second month of his new life. His shoulder and front leg muscles grew in a way that isn't typical for lions. They got thicker and were shaped more for climbing than running through grasslands. Scientists who study living things might have said, "This is a one-of-a-kind event." We can see how adaptable nature is by the way that environment and education can get past even genetic barriers. But what really amazed everyone was how close the leopard and lion cub were to each other. They slept together every night on the safe tree fork. Curled up, while Nila groomed Copa, she did what she used to do with her own cubs. She tried to keep him warm with her spotted fur. Copa fell asleep to Nila's soft purr, which is a sound leopards make to comfort their young. Copa would sometimes look toward the far horizon at nights when the moon was out and hear the roars of lion prides. He felt something deep inside him when he heard those sounds. But Nila would get close and touch his neck with her nose. The moment would then be over. He had lost all of his family except for Nila. The sycamore tree and all of its branches and leaves had become his world. Copa grew very quickly as the dry season gave way to the rainy season. He was no longer the sad little lion cub when he was 6 months old. He had grown into a strong teen, and the first hairs of mane were starting to grow around his neck. Copa was definitely going to be bigger than Nila soon, because his body got longer and his shoulders got wider. Now was the most dangerous time for their special bond. For most species, the time between childhood and adulthood is when mother and child are no longer together. It was even more dangerous this time. Copa species' instincts would slowly start to wake up. What would happen when those instincts realized he was living with a possible enemy? On the other hand, Nila and Copa changed the rules of nature again. Instead of getting farther apart, they seemed to become closer. Copa started to hunt with Nila, but not like a lion would, where they would hunt in packs and chase prey. Instead, he learned how to be like a leopard. Wait for the right time to attack, then attack with pinpoint accuracy. When these strange hunters showed up, it was a new nightmare for the impalas and zebras. How could they deal with a lion that could jump out of a tree at any time, or a hunting pair where the lion was strong and the leopard was quick? One afternoon, they were sharing an impala that they had just killed when a new threat showed up. A big male leopard quietly walked up, maybe drawn by the smell of meat. As you might expect, male leopards kill cubs that aren't their own, especially when the cubs are with their mothers and fighting over food and territory. As the intruder got closer, he growled and looked directly at Nila with scary eyes. He was bigger and stronger than her. It was clear that he was ready to fight. Nila put herself between Copa and the enemy out of concern. Her fur went up her back. What happened next was not what anyone expected. Copa didn't run away like a normal cub because Nila had taught him how to protect himself. Instead, he jumped forward and stood next to his adoptive mother. Instead of a lion's roar, he let out the high-pitched hiss of a leopard, which was a sound he had heard Nila make when she was angry at someone. It was such a strange scene that the male leopard stopped and looked around. There was a female leopard in front of him. What a beautiful animal. Not easy to spot. It looks like a young lion, but acts and sounds like a leopard. What's more, this hybrid didn't seem scared. The male leopard thought about the fight for a moment, and then decided it wasn't worth the risk. From there, he moved away and disappeared into the bushes, leaving Nila and Copa with their prey. Once more, when they went back to the sycamore tree that night, their bond had changed. Nila wasn't just a mother bear who watched over her cub, and Copa wasn't just a cub who needed her. They were now working together to protect each other. Copa responded with a soft growl that sounded neither like a lion nor a leopard. It was their own secret language. Nila licked a small cut that Copa had scraped during the fight. As the rainy season ended and the dry season began, a bigger problem came up. Copa had become very mature by the time he was almost a year old. It was clear that the lion's instincts were slowly coming back to life. His mane had grown thicker around his head, and his roar had become deeper and more powerful. Copa would often climb down from the sycamore tree on nights when there was a full moon and stand still on a rock, looking out to the horizon. Sometimes, he could hear the roars of male lions far away. He felt a strong desire to run across the vast grasslands, to feel the power in his legs, and to live the way his species had evolved to live. Nila kept quiet as she watched these changes happen. Copa became interested in the sounds in the distance, but she didn't try to stop him. Instead, she just stayed close by, being a calm and unobtrusive presence. Maybe she knew, in a way that only a mother can, that no bond, no matter how strong, can change a creature completely from what it really is. Then, one night, Copa was standing on his usual rock when he heard a loud roar coming from much closer than usual. Copa replied this time. A sound came from deep inside his chest. It wasn't the hiss of a leopard that he'd been imitating all his life. It was the deep, powerful roar of a young male lion. The sound reverberated through the grassland, waking up impalas that were sleeping and drawing the attention of a lion pride far away. She got cold on her tree branch. At that moment, she realized the day she had been waiting for had finally come. Copa, her son, could not always live like a leopard. That's how she saw him. At some point, his true nature would have to come out. Nila didn't feel scared or angry, though. She felt a strange peace. It wasn't because she was ready to give up her adopted child, but because she knew that real love isn't owning someone. It's letting them be who they are. Nila woke Copa up the next morning with a gentle lick on the face, just like she had done hundreds of times before. The first light hit the canopy of the sycamore tree. Today was different, though. She didn't lead him a hunt like she usually does. Instead, she climbed down the tree and waved for him to follow. They walked for hours and got farther away from where they were used to being. Copa, who was interested but trusted, followed Nila close. When the sun was really high, they finally got to a place with tall, golden grass and big rocks sticking out of the ground. A group of lions was resting in the shade of a big rock. There were about 12 lions in the group. 4 adult females, 5 cubs of different ages, and 3 young males who were probably not much older than Copa. Copa's old pride wasn't here, and neither was the group that had hurt his mother. This was a new pride that had moved into the area in the past few months. Nila stopped far away and hid behind a bush for safety. She looked at Copa and saw a message that didn't need words. This is where you belong. Copa looked back and forth between Nila and the pride of lions, not sure what to think. He made a soft growl, which was a sound he and Nila had used to talk to each other, as if to ask her if this was really what she wanted. Copa's cheek was touched by Nila's nose, which was a sweet sign of motherly love. After taking a step back, she pointed to the lion pride. Once filled with fierce protective instinct, her eyes were now filled with what could only be called unconditional love. Love that was ready to let go if it was best for the loved one. Copa was stuck, torn between 2 different worlds. His genetic heritage lay in front of him, a life that his instincts yearned for. He could see his mother behind him. She had saved him and raised him. She taught him not only how to hunt and stay alive, but also how to love in a way that didn't matter what. Copa made his choice in a moment that seemed to last forever. He took a few steps toward the pride of lions, but then he stopped and turned one last time to look at Nila. He let out a soft growl that wasn't goodbye, but a promise. After that, he kept walking toward his destiny, feeling royal and sure of himself. Nila did not move as she watched her son walk up to the lion pride. At first, the group seemed tired, but over time, curiosity took the place of caution. An older female lion came up to Copa and carefully sniffed her. That he might have smelled like someone she knew, maybe not the pride smell, but the smell of her own kind. Copa slowly became a part of the group. A young male lion came up to them, and after a tense moment, they started to play together, which is a common way for young lions to bond. She finally turned away as the sun went down. Her heart was full of pride, but her body was heavy with sadness. She had done what every mother has to do at some point. She had let her child grow up. That could have been the end of the story, a memorable one about maternal love that crosses species lines and ends with meaningful breakup. But even though nature is very complicated, it sometimes has surprise at the end. After 3 months, the savanna had turned a brilliant yellow color during the dry season, and Nila was resting on a branch of sycamore tree she knew well. She went on with her life hunting, keeping her territory safe and surviving, but people would notice that her eyes were often fixed on the horizon, where she had left her son. Then one afternoon, as the sun was slowly going down, she saw a shape at the edge of her vision. There was a big, strong thing moving toward the sycamore tree, with sure steps and a clear goal. Nila tensed up, her body ready for harm. As the thing got closer, though, she saw that it wasn't a threat, but a miracle. It was the Copa. He walked up to the base of the sycamore tree and looked up, his eyes searching for Nila. He was now bigger and stronger, and his mane was fully grown around his face. The sound he let out when he saw her was a soft growl that only she could understand. Nila jumped down from the tree and faced her son right away. They touched noses, which was a private act they had done many times before. And at that very moment, the line between species broke down again. It didn't last long for Copa. Now he was proud, had duties, and had a new life. But after that day, he always came back to see Nila. Sometimes it was just a quick stop, and other times they lied together in the shade of the sycamore tree for hours. And even though time went by and the world around them changed, the bond between them, the bond between mother and son, the bond between two animals in deep pain, stayed as strong as the first day. Because in this wild and unforgiving world of nature, true love can sometimes get past all the obstacles, even those built up over millions of years of evolution.